Hi guys, it's Nicole, and today I'm featuring a beachy themed double page layout. This is for the Erica Rose design team. I am playing with the Just Beachy scrapbook kit. This is everything that comes in it, and as you can see, there are two pre-cut cut files in here, as well as half of a 6x8 pad, a full pack of die cuts, like all kinds of stuff. If you purchase this in the store, I believe there's two options, one of which comes with like class content. I am kind of just doing my own thing today. I am taking the sketch class over at SCT magazine, and I kept going back to some of the modifications and variations on the June sketch for the class, and there was one that I was really drawn to, and so I went and grabbed this film strip cut file from Erica, and I sized it to be as close to 12 inches as I could possibly get it. And what you'll see, one of the frames is not a full square, and that's okay. I intentionally chose my photos and edited my photos to pick ones that I wouldn't be cutting into the middle of anything. And then I did leave this in because sometimes when you are trying to cut a full 12-inch width on something like a silhouette or a Cricut, you might run into this issue where the software in the machine just will not go all the way the full 12 inches, even if you've still got your branding strip on there. This was an easy one to just take an X-Acto knife and kind of finish the cutting myself. Now, to me, these film strip pieces were like a perfect substitute for the row of photos that was depicted on the sketch. So I was really glad that Erica had a film strip cut file that I could use. And this page has a ton of photos on it while still having some that are full size. So like you can see, I've got a 6x4, I've got some 3x4s, another 6x4, and then I'm going to have a bunch of smaller photos in the film strip. Now, I will go ahead and tell you guys know I love B-sides. And I think what I'm kind of drawn to with a lot of Erica's classes and her kits and stuff is she uses A-sides really well. So I flipped through the photos a lot and just back and forth trying to figure out what I liked, what I didn't like, what could I possibly try to use. And this was me probably a day or two later. The first time that I cut those film strips, I just cut them with some striped paper that I had in my stash. I ended up recutting them with a pattern paper that reads a little bit more of a solid. It's just from my stash. I think it's those like Echo Park double-sided kind of solid cardstock papers. And I am going to go ahead and cut a second layer. I'm not sure what it is, but anytime I've ever used film strip dies or digital die cut files, I really like to layer two of them and do like an offset thing. To me, it just makes them feel a little bit less flat, but we'll get there in a minute. This is where I'm still just trying to figure out, what do I want to do? What papers do I think are going to work out well? I kept going back to this wave pattern, and I was like, you know what? I like that. I don't know what else I want to use to fill in some of the strips of paper that are depicted on the sketch. And my solution when I haven't decided on something is to go back to a part of the process that I have made the decision on and I do kind of know the path forward. Because while my brain is kind of busy on gluing things together, the other half of my brain is kind of like almost like mentally digging through those papers and trying to come up with a solution as well. So I've got my photos all laid out here. I do have one more that I needed to print. It didn't fit on my photo paper, so I have one more open in my software that I need to go ahead and just print. But I kept the file open in Silhouette and just cut it the exact same size. I didn't do an offset. I didn't change the sizing. kept everything exactly the same, and then I ran it through with some textured white cardstock that I keep on hand. I buy this by the pack on Amazon. It's my absolute favorite. I probably could have gotten away with a cheaper cardstock in my stash to kind of get stuff used up, but I don't like to cut with that stuff. If I'm cutting on my silhouette, I stick to papers that I know cut well, even if they're, the better paper that I'm hoarding. And what I do is I glue the two layers and just kind of slightly shift it to one side or the other so that you're getting pops of that white cardstock behind the pink. And then when I cut my photos, I didn't do like the greatest job cutting and making sure that the like margins were even because it's going to be hidden behind. I just tried to make sure that I was cutting enough off that you don't see the photos kind of peeking up in the like those little holes above and below. And I just line the backside of that opening with some liquid glue, flip it over, and kind of hover above my photo until I've got it centered, and then drop it down and it picks up the photo, and I just kind of keep going along. And then you'll see those are all full-size squares, and then the ones over here on the end aren't full-size squares. I had two photos of my kids kind of by themselves with a lot of open negative space in the photo. So I intentionally chose those, and then I just made sure that whichever direction the kids were facing determined if it was going to go on the outer left or the outer right. Now, at this point, I did cut out a lot of me, again, going back through those pattern papers. I think I was struggling to find papers that were a little bit more muted, not only because that's my personal style, but because I knew I wanted to fill in a lot of the space along the film strips with a bunch of embellishments and stickers and kind of do a little bit of scene building. And when I'm working in that type of like embellishment style, I don't like to layer any kind of like scene building stuff on super busy papers because to me, I have a difficult time seeing it. So I feel like they don't pop, I guess that's the word I'm looking for. So I ended up going back to this wave pattern that I kept going back to, and I used this one on like 3 sections, and I just kind of measured like a bigger chunk for up here above all the photos going across the bottom, and there is a not quite like a rainbow diagonal stripe one that was in there as well, and this one right here. And I'm going to use this to cut a bunch of like little strips, and I like to have almost like a finished edge when I'm doing strips of paper like this. So if the wave pattern is the chunkier bit, I give it a thin diagonal edge. And then if the rainbow diagonal paper is the chunkier bit, I give it a little bit of a wave. And for those, I just lined up the pattern on my paper cutter and cut literally an individual like wave. And then I repeat the same process with these thin little strips of the diagonal striped paper. And again, to me, this is just personal preference. Sometimes I do this with border stickers, a border punch, super skinny strips like this. I just kind of like to have some sort of like delineation between my photos and the papers, and it goes back to personal preference and that like you do you mentality. I'm going to do the exact same thing on the right hand page. The overall like sketch and design of this double page layout is very much kind of the same lines going from the left to the right, broken up a little bit with your title and journaling and things like that. Now, the sketch depicted a bunch of like floral, clustery border type things, and usually when I see that on a sketch, my brain immediately just kind of starts whispering like, make a scene. And as soon as my brain says, make a scene, I'm like, okay, done. Because for whatever reason, I don't struggle embellishing if my brain thinks it's some sort of a scene. Things don't have to make sense. Things don't have to be sized correctly. And I'm not worried about if my clusters look good. it's almost freeing to me. And so I'm going to use a mix of the die cuts, the sticker sheet, and this, I can't think of what this is called. It's their, title. Oh gosh, I wish I could, I already threw it away because I pretty much used everything. But it's a pack where it's kind of designed to make a complete layout where you've got a big title piece. There's usually like a subtitle, and then it kind of steps down and you've got like some large icons, some medium icons, some small icons, and I really, really like those packs. I tend to shop those when I go to like a local crop or when new collections drop where I like bits and pieces of it, I will kind of get that big title piece. So like here, you can kind of tell that I'm not like auditioning pieces here and there. I am literally just grabbing things and putting them down. There's something about building a scene that just works for my brain instead of doing like the more traditional like 3 clusters or clustering things in different parts. I really like just cramming a bunch of stuff all across a shelf like this. It is so satisfying to me. And again, the icons don't necessarily have to make a ton of sense to me. I think I just kind of avoided some of the stuff that leaned a little bit more like tropical because this was just a beach in Southern California. So I stuck to things like the cute little houses, and I pulled in some like greenery from the die cut pack. Some things that were specific to my photos, like the sunglasses and the sandcastle. Now, do I think that fish are, in a sense, flying amongst these things? No, but it's cute. It makes sense in a giant like sticker scene, so just go with it. A lot of times when I pull things like the little fish or the phrase stickers, I'm actually more looking at the color of the icon or the item and then just making sure that whatever words on the phrase sticker don't like counteract my theme, I would say. And then if I'm doing a scene across a double page layout like this, where that gutter is and there's going to be something jumping like the center margin, I try to make sure it's something large that I can kind of cut in half. So I used one of those like big firm die cuts to go over that. I don't like to cut through things that have words on them. I don't like to cut through like smaller pieces because a lot of times I don't get like a clean cut, and then there's just like little bits and pieces that in likely my scenario I will lose it. We all know that I'm kind of a mess. Hopefully it's an entertaining type of mess, and that's why people continue to come back to my channel. If you're new here, maybe watch a couple videos and get like a sense of my style as far as my layouts and my voiceovers, and then kind of make an opinion. So I don't really have like a point where I'm like, okay, I feel like this scene is done. A lot of times it's just, I kind of look at it and I go, okay, I'm happy with it. The sketch depicted like a full 24-inch like cluster of florals going from the left to the right, above and below those smaller photos. I did not want to fill in all of that, and I also didn't want to be fighting like upside down things. A lot of times I don't like doing like scene building on a bottom edge like that unless it's going to be something like florals, because that makes sense to me. I've done it before on a zoo layout, and I just kind of picked things like sloths and monkeys and vines and things that to my brain, none of this makes sense, guys. You realize I'm talking about building a scene with giant sunglasses next to a tiny house and telling you that some of these things I don't like upside down. There's no rhyme or reason. It's you do you, I do me. I like what I like, and I try to explain to you guys why I like it, and that's kind of all there is to it. I did kind of make almost like another scene over here for the title piece. This is just something that I like to do, and I like to kind of change up the, I don't want to say layers, but like the depth of stuff. So the large beach vibes, I just put down flat, but then the sun-kissed piece, I put some foam adhesive. I'm using my favorite foam strips from scrapbook.com to do any kind of popping. I try not to go crazy with foam adhesive. A lot of times it's going to be on the phrase stickers and then like small things. So I think I popped up the fish, the crab, the phrase stickers, the subtitle, and then the little like GPS pins down on the bottom. And then it's just kind of my mood on whether or not I want to pop up my journaling strips. And today I did. I also went ahead and typed up at this phase in my process. I'm working on 3 layouts. So I typed up the journaling for all 3 layouts, and then this is my favorite Hero Arts sentiment strip die. I have a video tutorial on how I use this to do my journaling, and in that video in the description there is a link to a Google Docs and a Google Sheets form that I use. I prefer the Sheets version. Visually it just works out better for me. I will say, if you watch the video and if you download the files, you absolutely have to save a copy for yourself. You should not be at this point able to edit my original file that's being shared. It's been kind of messed up a couple times and I've had to go back and fix it, so I'm hoping that at this point it's locked down. But to me, this is a quick and like universal way for me to cut a bunch of journaling strips all at one time. And it doesn't bother me that they're not like all the same width. I kind of like it to be a little bit different. So because I use Google Sheets, I just kind of visually look at how much space I have in the cell. And when I run out of space, I go to the next line. And then this one specifically, after I typed it out, I kind of measured how much space I had for those first couple lines, because you can see it's going to kind of nestle underneath the B, E, and A of the word beach, and I don't have like the full 6-inch width right there. So I just kind of refer back to my layout and the space that I have and only fill in, 4 or 5 words for those lines, and then I go to the next line. And then when I get to the point where I'm like, okay, I think I only need 2 lines that are going to be short, I can do a full line for like the 3rd line of my journaling and so forth. This is one of those things that I've just done so much that it's kind of muscle memory, and I don't really think to explain it, but it's one of those things where once you kind of start playing around with journaling strips, you get it and you start to figure out methods and tips and tricks that work for you. The last thing I did was go ahead and cut off anything that was overhanging, and my layout is complete. So I hope you enjoyed a fun beach themed scene building double page layout today. Links to everything will be down below in the description box, and as always, I thank you guys for spending time with me today, and I'll catch you next time.